What's on, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Ross, I like games, and today we've got another combiner to talk about. We know that we are getting 6 combiners. We saw Predaking, that was the very first one that was revealed. Then, just a couple of days ago, we saw Volcanicus, and I was excited because, you know, Dinobots. Dinobots are my jam, incidentally. If anyone hasn't realised that by now, Dinobots are my jam. Well, today, ladies and gentlemen, the lovely folks over at GameInformer.com, yes, obviously I'll pop a link to this one in the description, have given us an exclusive look at Menasor Menacing Colossus. And it is a Stunticon. So we'll have a look at the Stunticons in a moment. Let's start off by having a little bit of a look at Menasor. Now, this is a 25-star character, so we haven't got all of the Volcanicus shenanigans where it's got too many stars. And similarly, the health is, shall we say, a little bit more sensible. What we see here is a health of 35, which is weirdly exactly the same as Metroplex. That does make it the lowest health on any of these combiners we've seen so far. Predaking comes in at 37, Volcanius comes in at 56, and Menasor comes in at 35. The thing is that the whole health on these combiners is a little bit of a fallacy, because they always have one more health than all of the bots that combine into them. And remember that we have Enigma cards, which are essentially being used to combine into them. You play the Enigma card when you've got all of the combiners in bot mode, either in your KO area or in play. So you never actually end up with 35 health, because a couple of them have been KO'd, so they've got full damage, and you end up starting most likely with actually not that much health, unless you manage to combine before your opponent did much damage. So the whole health thing, little bit of a fallacy, but it does mean the bots as a whole are ever so slightly weaker. We see an attack of 6 here, which is higher than the average attack, but it's not amazing when we combine it to the other combiners. And the great news here is that we do actually have 3 of them now, so we can start doing some comparisons. An attack of 6 is 1 lower than Predaking and in line with Volcanius, so again, not terribly stunning. What we do like, however, is the defense of 2. It's in line with Predaking, but it is a fair bit higher than Volcanicus. So what we see here is essentially very similar stats, except Volcanicus has very high health but no defense, and Predaking and Menasor are largely in line with each other. Although, to be fair, Predaking does have 1 more attack and 2 more health. The thing is, the skills here are nuts on Menasor. You have Bold 1, meaning you flip an extra action card when attacking. And you have Tough 1, which means you flip an extra battle card while defending. And you have Pierce 1, which means you're guaranteed to do 1 damage regardless of your opponent's defense. And you can play an extra action card every turn while Menasor is out. Oh, and you get to draw 2 cards when combined. That is utterly ridiculous. Now, Predaking does let you play an extra card once when you combine, but this, ladies and gentlemen, is just crazy, crazy good. We've talked many times about the fact that playing extra action cards is amazing. We've talked about things like Optimus Prime Battlefield Legend or Autobot Mirage that let you play extra actions, and we have gushed over the fact that they do. One thing that is really cool here, yes, and I don't think we need a ruling on this, I think given what we know this is fairly obvious, you can choose your extra action for the turn to be Brainstorm, meaning that you can actually parlay this into 2 extra actions during your turn. And what I adore about this is that you can focus on whatever you want with Menasor. Maybe you focus on Bold using cards like Supercharge to beef it up, or maybe instead you focus on Tough, maybe using the recently revealed from Wave 2 Evasive Maneuvers, was shown by the lovely people at the TFW podcast, or maybe you use stuff like Piercing Blaster and focus on Pierce instead. This is a combiner that gives you options. You can go Bold, you can go Pierce, you can go Tough, but what I really love about this, and I think probably the best thing about this, you can play an extra action every turn. This isn't Autobot Mirage where you can play an extra action when when you flip to alt mode. It's not like Optimus Prime where you're flipping battle cards and you don't know what you're going to be able to play. This is an extra action card every turn, and you can make a conscious decision to play the card from your hand, and yes, it can be Brainstorm. The stats on Menasor do not impress me much, as Shania Twain might say. But Bold 1, Tough 1, Pierce 1, and playing an extra action every turn, awesome. Also, don't sleep on the fact that when you combine, you get to draw 2 cards, because that means that you can draw an action ready to play it straight away. Now, Menasor is a combiner. If we're going to be playing a combiner, we are going to need an Enigma card. Because, ladies and gentlemen, the only way that you actually get to play combiners is if you play the relevant Enigma card. So, if we have a look at the Enigma card, a lot of this seems extremely familiar. You must have the 5 Stunticons in bot mode on the battlefield or in your KO area, and you play this card to combine them. It begins untapped, but it keeps all damage, as I previously mentioned, from all the combined characters, and you keep 1 upgrade in each slot. If you've got more than 1 weapon on all your Stunticons, you got a choice to make. And it has the green icon, so if you flip Stunticon Enigma while attacking or defending, then you can discard a card from your hand after the battle and pick up Stunticon Enigma. What does it do? It lets you draw 2 cards. It's fine. Dinobot Enigma gives them Bold 2, which is quite nice. Predacon Enigma gives it Bold 1 while letting you play an upgrade. Do remember that even after you've combined, this is still a card that lets you draw 2 cards. And in fact, you only draw 2 cards after combining. If you haven't combined, all it lets you do is combine. And I should mention that we do have a melee character here in Menasor, and that means you get access to a couple of really nice battle cards. You've got body armor, which can only be put on a melee character, but does give you tough 3, and we have power sword that can only be put on a melee character, and it gives you bold 3. But bearing in mind you've already got bold 1 and tough 1, shall we say I think this is a somewhat significant advantage. So let's have a look at the Stunticons, shall we? So starting off, we've got Dead End. Now, I should mention all of these Stunticons are 5-cost cards, and they are all common. So unlike with Volcanicus the other day where it's 5 rares, these are not going to be a difficult team to put together. You're going to be able to get these 5 commons fairly easily. Now, because they are 5-cost cards, that means it's a full 25-star deck. You cannot be putting in star cards like mounted missiles, and similarly, if you're playing Menasor, you're not putting in any other cards. It is these 5, that's your team. I mean, you'll obviously be putting in battle cards. So we're not expecting great stats, and on Dead End, we're not getting them. Health of 7, not particularly good when the average is 12. Defense of 1 or 2 is alright. Attack of 2 or 3 is fairly poor. The stats are pretty bad here. But, like most of these, you do have a car, and because you've got a car, now in theory, you can use start your engines here for cars, but that would be a bit of a silly thing most of the time. Because you see, start your engines lets you switch all of your cars from bot mode into car mode, but you need them into bot mode to combine them, so you're probably not going to be playing Start Your Engines. You may be playing Team Up Tactics that lets you draw 2 cards if you choose a car, or repair 2 damage from a truck. And being a ranged character means that you do get access to Armed Hovercraft, which I really like. When you put it on a ranged character, you do 1 damage to each enemy. In the age of combiners, where you're quite often going to have 5 wide teams, that's pretty good. And Rapid Ascent, when you put it on a ranged character, you can make your opponent discard a card from their hand, which is not too bad. So, not good stats here, but we quite like that it's ranged and we quite like that it's a car. When you flip it into bot mode, you get to draw a card. This is quite nice, and I mean it fits in with the theme of Stunticon Enigma, and Menasor's skill when you do combine here, fair bit of draw power. And when you are in alt mode, you get tough 1, which is quite nice. If you're playing cards to try and up the tough of Menasor, then you will also be adding to the tough of Dead End. We do also see here Motormaster, the Stunticon leader. Now, it is a Decepticon leader. We have no extra help for Decepticon leaders, annoyingly. You are a melee character. We've talked about that. You are a truck in alt mode. Now, trucks have team-up tactics, and they do also have cargo trailer. Cargo trailer is great for adding to your attack, but you really want 2 or 3 on here to do the most you can, and honestly, you've got 8 health. You're probably not surviving that long. Or are you? The defense of 1 or 2 is fine. The attack of 2 or 3 is fairly low. But we have some nice skills. In bot mode, you can basically redirect damage done to one of your other Stunticons. Think of it kind of like heroism here, except it can't be removed using something like ramming speed, and you can choose on a turn-to-turn, attack-to-attack basis without having to worry about playing the upgrade. You can just put the damage onto one of your other Stunticons. Maybe you redirect the damage to a Stunticon that's already in bot mode, so it ends up in the KO pile in bot mode, ready to combine. When you are in alt mode here, your other characters cannot take non-attack damage from your opponent's cards. This is a phenomenal skill. And this is a kind of thing that would make you put Motormaster into a non-Menasor deck. Because this is so good against these cards that do what I like to call cheeky damage. Things like Zap. But actually, let's not talk about Zap. Let's talk about Photon Bomb. We'll do a video about this in the future when we've got a bit more time. These combiner videos, we need to go through all 5 combiners plus Menasor. It's a lot to get through in one video. But your opponent cannot play Photon Bomb when you've got this out. Photon Bomb does 2 damage to each character, but they wouldn't do it to yours, only to theirs, which would be hilarious. Important to note, only your opponent's cards are being protected here. So as much as I want to talk about Photon Bomb, it's only when your opponent plays it, so maybe not that amazing, but it will protect you from Bolt of Lightning. Bolt of Lightning actually costs a star, it's so good. It does 3 direct damage, and that's actually incredibly relevant here, because you're rocking bots with like 7 and 8 health. Being able to protect against 3 health from a Bolt of Lightning is absolutely huge. Or maybe even Strafing Run. Strafing Run does 1 damage to each enemy. If you're playing a 5-wide deck, that's 5 damage. But not if you've got Motormaster in alt mode. So Motormaster, rather exceptional skills. We've got Breakdown here. It is a 5 cost. It is a car. They're mostly cars, but you're actually a specialist in either mode here, which means you get access to cards like Multi-Mission Gear, Multi-Tool, and the card that I was lucky enough to reveal not too long ago, Field Communicator, which essentially let you play extra cards. Having said this, it is the only specialist of the Stunticons, whereas melee, ranged, etc. go over more than 1, so I don't think you'll be playing the specialist cards. 7 health is low, 2 attack is low. I do like the 2 defense, that is actually average. 5 cost with 2 defense, pretty good. No skill in bot mode, but in alt mode, when you attack and flip at least 2 blue icons, you get +2 attack until end of turn. Well, then you've still got a fairly low health of 7, but you've then got average defense and average attack on a 5 cost. That's actually really quite nice. This is the kind of thing that might make you play it as a 5 cost car. If you're playing a car deck, you end up with 20 stars, you want to put in a 5-star car. This one could fit in there quite nicely. It can be a decent little attacker. Now, a card we haven't had a chance to talk about yet, but we will very soon. It was revealed by the lovely folks at Wreck and Rule. Decepticon Crown actually gives you plan 1. When you attack, you get to put a card from your hand on top of your deck, and if you're trying to get the double blue icons, any card with plan is going to help you out massively. This is, if I remember correctly, the only battle card we've currently seen that has plan. But we'll probably get some more in the future. Plan is extremely good here because the double blue icon is rather nice indeed. Though it's only going to work if you're playing a defensively minded deck. If you're playing an attacking minded deck, no. We also have Drag Strip here. Now, this is a ranged character in bot mode, melee in alt mode, and of course car in alt mode. We've got 7 health, not great. Either 2 or 0 defense, okay, and terrible. But we've got an attack of 3 or 4 here. Now, given the average in Wave 1 was 4 and you're a 5 cost, whereas the average is an 8 cost, this is a decent attack. We do see some of these coming in with quite nice attacks. Now in bot mode you've got Pierce 1, you guarantee at least 1 damage. If you were to put Piercing Blaster on here, that would guarantee you at least 4 damage because you'd have Pierce 4 and an attack of 4. Please remember your Pierce cannot be higher than your attack. If you've got Pierce 4 but an attack of 3, you still only do 3 damage. And remember that you've got Pierce on Menasor, so maybe you're going the Pierce route, in which case Decepticon Drag Strip will help you. When you're in alt mode and you attack, if you flip at least 1 orange, 1 blue, you draw 2 cards. And we're back to draw power. Menasor can draw, Dead End can draw, and now Drag Strip can draw. That's really quite nice. I like the skills on Drag Strip. I like the attack on Drag Strip. Again, there is a decent argument here for playing this in a non-Stunticon card deck, because that's decent draw power. Plus you got Pierce. And then we see Offroad, the final of the 5. What does Offroad do? Well, it's a melee in either mode. It is a truck in alt mode. And the stats here, well, we got a health of 6, which is really bad, but you've actually got a defense of 3 in alt mode. 2 in bot mode. Defense of 3 is above average. On a 5 cost, that's really nice. Yeah, the health of 6 is bad, and normally at this point I'd be saying, look, if you've got low health and decent defense, that's good, but direct damage will hurt you. No, it won't. Not if Motormaster is still in alt mode. And if you're playing against a deck that's playing direct damage, you're probably going to flip Motormaster rather late here. And then, of course, you've got the skills as well. In bot mode, when you flip to it, you repair 1 damage. Because you've got a defense of 3 in alt mode, repairing when you flip could actually be quite relevant. In alt mode, when an enemy car attacks, you do 1 damage to it. This is extremely situational. If you ain't playing against cars, that's bad. If you are playing against cars, this is nice. And this will add a huge amount of strategy to the Menasor mirror match, where there's going to be a lot of cars. If you want the rundown, we have 3 cars and 2 trucks here. So, in the mirror match, where there are 3 cars running around, yeah, that's going to be extremely, extremely relevant here. As always, we don't know enough about Wave 2 to say whether this is going to be the best deck or not, but we clearly have a lot of potential here. The fact that you've got Bold 1, Tough 1, and Pierce 1 on Menasor is great. The fact you can play an extra action is great. And then throughout all of these, we've got some draw power. We've got some Pierce. We've got some Tough. But we've got some really good, unique stuff here. I mean, I'm specifically looking at Motormaster stopping non-attack damage, as well as looking at Offroad, which does damage to cars when they try and attack. There is a lot to like about this, and I think some of these are also going to be featured in non-Stunticon decks because they are good enough as 5-cost characters to justify it. But again, I'm afraid those thoughts will have to wait for a later video. Some of these are so fun, they are definitely going to be getting their own video. But ladies and gentlemen, this is the part where you tell me what you think about these Stunticons and about Menasor. I'm not quite as hyped as I was for Volcanius because they're not Dinobots, but I would still say that my pumped level is fairly high. And given that they are commons, are going to be very easy to get hold of, this is going to be a deck an awful lot of people are going to be able to have a play around with. So with that, tell me what you think about this in the comment section. Go nuts. But please do remember the most important rule as always. Be nice, would ya? And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, and follow me on Twitter at the Wossy, where we talk about Transformers and other fun games, like Keyforge. But by far the most important thing as always is to look after yourselves until next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Ross, and you've been watching Wossy Plays.